It's an absolutely beautiful morning here in South Georgia. Thanksgiving morning. It's a little too cool, but it's not snowing, so I'm not going to complain. Uh, she's coming up, so she a little hit my face already, warming me up. That's why I picked this bow stand this morning so I could get some sun and not freeze. The importance of routines is a big deal. When I retired, I didn't really understand that part. And even with the chaotic, anybody that's a first responder or military, or anybody that does shift work, like my dad was in a quarry as a shift work guy, days, eves, mids, it's hard to have a routine. And when I retired, it was like there was no routine of a crazy routine. And that's what I struggled with. And then I had to figure a few things out. For the most part, most holidays in our family, we're going to be in a tree. Because, everybody's generally off. And it just is what it is. So the youngest boy is across the farm. He's up in a tree. The oldest boy, I think, is back home sleeping. And I know the bride is sleeping. But my routine, way before the boys came into the picture, was get up in a tree. Thanksgiving, Christmas, even when the kids were little, I'd go get in the tree for just a few hours, and then I'd have to get home and do the presents. But it's important. And when we get wrapped around that axle of life, and we reach out to the experts for help, and we're sitting there in that chair, or maybe laying on a sofa, and they start talking to us about like routines. And we're like, well, wait a second, I work shift work, I'm on call, I'm out, do you have trouble sleeping? Well, hell yeah, I have trouble sleeping because I don't have a schedule, and I just laid down, the phone rang, and I'm back up and I go. I think the question needs to be, presented differently. When you can sleep, do you have trouble sleeping? And for a lot of us, sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But the routines, even the most minute routines, you got to identify them, right? So I get up in the morning, and when it works out, I do my protein shake that I've done for 30 years or whatever, and then I stretch, and then I start my day. So today my routine's off. I did my protein shake, but I didn't stretch because I wanted to get out here before it got daylight, because cutting it kind of close. So when I get back home, I'm going to take my time to stretch and try to get back into that routine. But these simple routines are big. And so when you have a traumatic event, or, you're on call and it's a long call and you're out for a long time, and it could even be like with my dad in the quarry. If one of the kills was down, they're working double shifts. Whatever the case is, you don't necessarily have to be a first responder. Try to get back to some form of a routine. If it's as simple as sitting down at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee and having 5 minutes of peace and go, there you go. So it's going to be a short video today, because I ain't going to lie, I'm kind of freezing. But I hope that it helps people understand that the brain likes that. The brain wants to go, hey, I'm in a comfort zone. It's not chaotic. The brain is continually looking to resolve the conflict, whatever the conflict is. And so how do we help the brain understand to resolve the conflict? Is getting back into routines. And the big thing is that when you're in a state of conflict, you can't complete anything. So literally the other day, I'm getting treated by my physical therapist because I'm always tearing crap up. And she's got some junk going on in her life. And I was like, hey man, clean out a freaking closet. And she's like, what? I said, complete something. She's got a lot of junk going on in her life. And I said, your brain is just wanting to feel like it's actually accomplishing some form of a mission. And she's like, all right, I guess that makes sense. And it does make sense. Because a lot of times, whatever's in front of us, we can't do nothing about it. Do things that you can get done, you can complete. So I'm gonna buzz you around. You can hear some boys. They're not shooting deer. They're I think it's probably doves. I'm not a bird hunter. Doves are too pretty to shoot. But that's all the shooting you hear in the background. And I'm gonna buzz you around. We got a spring right up here. Thank God we have a spring because that creek would be bone dry. So it's feeding that. And it's just a beautiful morning here in South Georgia. And we're gonna hunt for a little bit today, and then we're gonna go home, and I'm gonna put on my climbing spikes. And we got a big pine, another big pine in our yard got nailed by lightning, and we're gonna take that down, and that's gonna be our Thanksgiving. So hang on. So there she is up there. Kind of hard to see. Of course, I'm in a magnolia tree, one of my favorite trees for bow hunting. We got a little creek over there. See, we got a little bit of water for the deer. Now all that's been clear cutted over there. So what that means is all the pines were taken, and then they're going to get replanted in pines. So it's ugly as hell, but if you want furniture and building and lumber and junk, you got to clear cut and start over, kind of like life. We've got another little creek down there. So who am I today? I'm a guy trying to find his routine. And I think for a lot of us, that's just a constant battle. It's also a constant battle for balance. The balance between the things that we love, the things that we need to do. And so for a lot of us, we struggle with balance. We struggle with routines. And we're just wanting somebody to give us a break so we can be balanced and have a routine. And so I don't think it ever gets completely accomplished. I don't think you ever feel like you're just completely perfect on both ends. I just don't think so. And if it was, then what the hell would we do? You know, what would we think about? Probably a bunch of goofy junk. So what I look at is I try to just do the best I can with the balance, the best I can with the routine, and look for improvement. And like my friend Walter says, who's 78 years old, he said, when I suck my last breath, I'm still going to be a work in progress. Y'all have a great day.